I casted him a little bit lately, and honestly, he looks okay. You know, I wouldn't say it was spectacular PvT, but it was good enough to take maps off players like Cure, Innovation, and others.
Yep, he's been playing a lot against Inno, and even though he's most of the time ends up on the losing side, he doesn't get bopped 4-0. He's even taking out players like Dream as well. I mean, if you can do that, you're pretty damn good at StarCraft. This is going to be one hell of a series, a real clash between regions, I think, like the hot European prospect against that Korean that we don't talk about that much, but could still be very good in this tournament. So let's just bring it on the left top side of Triton. We're looking at the main base of the Korean Protoss player. It is Hurricane.
And in the bottom right, new representative of Team Liquid, our Red Terran, is Clem.
We know Clem also as a very aggressive player, like very micro-oriented. Obviously good in the multitasking as well. And when this matchup can get crazy, he's absolutely capable of dropping multiple locations at once. I'm really curious how Hurricane is going to approach this though, because yesterday we saw a lot of good PvTs. We saw a lot of Stalker Zealot. Some of them a little more than others. Some of them with one forge, some of them with the double forge, some of them with no forges. I'm curious to see if Hurricane is also going to open up like that. That is a style that I think Clem is very familiar with though.
Yeah, it's the sort of style a lot of European players like to play, and while some players like Mana, for example, who you might have been practicing with a lot lately, kind of prefer Colossi a little bit. I feel like when he plays against someone like Harstem, who's obviously new teammates with, Harstem is more of that standard save, 3 base, you know, then into all the units sort of player, and starting to get a bit more aggressive on the map. So you're right, I think he is very used to playing this style. It's definitely something he's not afraid of. And I think for Clem, he loved to play that sort of style because he loves to get the ghosts out early and hit some great EMPs and take some fights. You
know, even though Clem didn't have that many sick tournament runs last year, we're kind of still waiting for him to really break into a semi-finals of a, well, I used to say WCS, now an ESL Pro Tour stop. I absolutely think he's capable of that. Whenever he did go out, it never really felt like he was super nervous or just playing a horrible series, right? He always put up a fight. He would always go down, you know, after a well-fought battle, and it wasn't that he was always severely outclassed, but we are looking to see if he can really bring his A+ game, because that's what you need here in the Intel Extreme Masters, the offline bracket. This one is really stacked as well. It's not going to be easy. Clem needs to be at his best if he wants to get the job done here.
It's a little bit frustrating for Hurricane. This bunker in the back of the Nexus will go up, and that generally just forces a pylon near there and a shield battery just to take it down, because it's not about what, you know, the Reaper's not going to kill the Nexus, but you can't mine from that Nexus if the Reaper's in a bunker.
Yep, I actually think this is kind of nice. It's just the kind of stuff that is annoying enough to make this worth it. Because right now you're rallying probes. Nope, those probes actually cannot mine here.
Yep.
Are you gonna like throw up a pylon and then a shield battery? You almost kind of have to. Otherwise, this is just gonna take forever, because we know that the Depths have good DPS against Workers and Marines, not so good against the bunker.
Yeah, the second Adept's kind of interesting, right? Because it's usually expect to see the Stalker just start getting the extra damage onto that, and the reach to hit the SCV that's repairing it.
Yep.
So he's maybe going to go
still no
Stalker
pylon,
now.
by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to go no shield battery, but I feel like if you micro the SCV, well, this is going to be a nightmare. Hops out, it repairs a bit, SCVs, oh, yeah.
Good job there as well.
Yeah, it's perfect micro so far from Clem. And this is already, you know, you say he's a very micro player. This is the exact sort of thing he wants to be doing, dancing around, having some fun at the start of the game.
I actually think this is really good as well for him to get into his rhythm, right? Because this is what Clem loves. He's like, look at me, I'm avoiding shots with my little SCV here. And a Reaper doesn't have a lot of damage. Like, one Reaper cannot even fight a Stalker, even if it's inside of a bunker. But the two Adepts, you can see they're both quite bruised already.
Yeah, they're really low HP, and again, this SCV, that's the issue. You've got to somehow kill that. The Oracle could dive in to help as well, but then you're not going across the map. He finally gets the SCV, so this will finally go down, but Hellion in the main to scout.
And that bunker is still up, and he's still not mining of his natural. We're almost 4 minutes into this game, and Hurricane has not mined a single mineral yet of his natural.
Not one. He's in a bit of trouble, really. As the Oracle comes across the map, there's a good Marine count here off the reactor just to sort of say, yep, I've got the numbers to push that Oracle away. If this Oracle doesn't see the Cloak Banshee, that would be really bad, because that could just be a surprise that ends this. Fortunately, it goes straight in the main base, and it is able to get that scout, so Hurricane can begin preparing for that eventuality.
Yep, you can see Hurricane a little bit worried. Is there a wind mine somewhere? The answer is no, so picks up a single SCV, but already takes a lot of damage on that Oracle. Don't want to be too dramatic about it, but we know how quickly those can fall and how important they are for Protoss to stay alive. So from now on, he needs to be extra careful, because that Cyclone is out as well, and because it took some real damage and not just shield damage, it's actually a lot easier for the Cyclone to pick that Oracle off.
Hurricane chooses to go for the Phoenix, which allows him to shut down that Banshee a little bit more easily as well once you get the Revelation down, and that's pretty much what he has to do. He has to rely on the Revelation to detect these Banshees, but of course, if you have 2 Banshees at once, 2 Revelations are needed, and that's already the Oracle being tested a little bit.
What could be cool as well is that even if those Banshees would go down, let's say Clem just sends him to the other side of the map, then maybe you can keep Hurricane on his side of the map, and that could allow the Marines and tanks to make their way across the map. Then again, he's going up to 3 bases very quickly, so I'm not sure if Clem really wants to take that risk, but I really wouldn't mind a little push with Marines and tanks here, because I look at the army of Hurricane, and I'm going to qualify that as not much.
Especially with the start that he had to then try and take the fast 3rd base as well, right? It just feels a little bit greedy, and it's exactly what Clem's doing. He might not even send the Banshees across. You can just use them in this fight as straight-up damage output, because then the Oracles have to get close to the Marines. If they go down, the Phoenix goes down, Banshee's going to do loads.
I'm very worried. Do we have a shield battery at the 3rd base of Hurricane? The answer is no. Oh my goodness. Like, I really feel that his army is terrible, man. Like, once the tank sieges up, I feel like he's got nothing that's good against the tank. Like, yeah, if Stalkers are in range, Bonkers are going to go up as well. Wow. Don't forget, guys, Clem is going up to 3 bases on the other side of the map. This is by no means an all-in. Obviously, you want to get some value here, and that's absolutely what he's looking for. Maybe the Phoenix can lift the tank. That'd be a good play. Yeah,
he's going to come in for... The problem is there's so many Marines, so he gets targeted down so fast. The Banshees hang back for a little while. There's a Revelation to strike them, though, so at least he sees them. But that supporting Siege Tank will do so much. He has already the Sentry in the front blown up, and it's just Stalkers, and these Marines and Banshees getting good damage, and look at those Stalkers. Every time they move forwards, the tank gets another big shot.
Yep, Phoenix is fine. Gonna dive in and lift that tank. But now that Bonk is gonna make things even more complicated. I feel like one tank shot could potentially kill like 3 Stalkers at once, and that'd be devastating. This Nexus is starting to take some very serious damage as well. The Banshees are gonna settle for a couple of probes. Hurricane finally takes the fight, but loses the Oracles immediately. He's gonna end up losing a couple of Stalkers, but don't forget he also ends up losing 10, 11 probes, something along those lines.
And now the Banshee's in the natural mineral line, and you know what? I don't think they have Revelation on them anymore. So he has to wait for an Observer that's not been built yet, and that just means maybe he's about to run out of energy, so he's backing away. I think that's the case, as he actually runs into an Observer in the end. So a little unfortunate here.
Well, they both still live. I mean, the Phoenix is going to chase it down. Phoenix should be able to get it, but at 16 workers going down, make it 17, why not? A very, very successful start for Clem to this game.
And now you're on 3 bases, your stim combat about to finish up, and that's one of the dangers sometimes in TVP, not having those upgrades when the Protoss comes across the map. And that's just not a thing here at all. So now Clem's already in another phase of this game where he can get aggressive.
Yep, and his army is just going to get stronger and stronger. You look at the production tab and it kind of tells the tale, right? When one guy is like halfway across the screen and the other guy has like a pylon and a robo bay, it's often a really bad sign for the Protoss player.
Yep, and I mean, look at the upgrades as well. He doesn't have any of the Twilight upgrades he wants. He has none of the Forge upgrades. Everything that Hurricane has done and had done to him in this game has set him behind from where he needs to be.
I mean, we're hyping Clem up. We're putting a lot of pressure on this young man, but he is absolutely delivering so far here. I mean, this is not even a fight, Wardy. This isn't even fair. Yes, there is an Immortal in the mix, but he's dropping Widow Mines on top of this army as well. This young Clem going strong. That is an absolutely perfect game won by Clem.
I mean, you couldn't have put it any better, right? I feel like from the first bunker, you're right. He found his rhythm. And Hurricane, I didn't like his response. I feel like you need the shield battery because it just cleans it up that much faster. And everything from there felt delayed, which slowed everything down. And it was just a combination of all of that compiling up, and Clem just looked unstoppable, of course, with that final army.
What Hurricane did very well is that he was producing probes non-stop in the beginning, but it's freaking pointless to have 36 workers and only be mining of 1 base. Like I think his main idea was, I really don't want to overreact to this, but now he kind of underreacted, and it really did send him just way too far back. I also think when that push came, I feel like he was a bit indecisive, right? He's like, I'm going to go in, I almost want to get the bunker, but he doesn't get the bunker. He's like, shall I go for the tank? No, I don't want to lift it right now, because then the Marines will just kill my Phoenix. But he ate so many tank shots to the face that I was like, even by now when you clean it up, it's going to be bad for you.
And it really was bad, right? You lose both the Oracles, you lose so many Stalkers, the Sentry, everything else, basically. It really was such a... It was indecision, right? If he dives in straight away, you lift up that tank, maybe you just go in with the Stalkers. It is just Stalkers versus Marines and a Cyclone. And that's generally not bad. The only risk was maybe the Phoenix gets targeted down, the tank's back in the fight, but then you're far enough forwards to one-shot it.
I think if you just A-click there as a Protoss player, you activate Pulsar Beam on both Oracles before that bunker is up. It may not be the prettiest engagement, and indeed you might lose that Phoenix immediately, because Clem is a world-class Terran player that's going to snipe it down, but you'll still get it done. Yes, you're going to end up losing units, but at least you'll buy yourself some time for the next push. Now it took so long that by the time the first one was done, the next one was already there, and the next one was obviously way more powerful with Stim and all the other good stuff Terran has.
Absolutely. And the top left-hand side from Bravestar Gaming, that blue Protoss player, this is Hurricane.
Never really thought that the horse would beat a bear. In the right bottom side of Ephemeron, we're looking at the main base of a young French Terran player recently joining Team Liquid. It is Clem.
You can't actually see the full logo, but it's actually a bear flanked by eagles as well.
Wow, that is
that
so
CL
cool.
horse is real powerful.
Yeah, I mean, horses are underrated.
It's like in chess, man. The knights can jump over things. It's insane.
Well, I mean, for Clem, what a way, right? Like, obviously, in the first round, he had a good showing. We didn't really see the games. Well, Pig said, like, he was on point. He was clean against Marsman. But that's what we expect, right? Because even if Clem has an off day, I love Marsman, Dutch Protoss, and obviously a good player, right? We're talking high Grandmaster League, 6,000 MMR. But there is a very big difference. Yeah. As they often say, Wardy, there are levels to this game, and in StarCraft there's a lot of levels. 6K is really good, 6-9 is way, way, way better, you know, and that's kind of just what happened. So even if Clem would have been bad, he probably would have won that best of 3. But starting off like this against a strong Protoss like Hurricane, that's got to be feeling really good.
Especially when I feel like sometimes you have this clash of Europe and Korea, and sometimes it's that clash of styles. But so far the clash of styles goes so much in favor of Clem from what we saw in the first game. It's like, wow. Hurricane's got to be a little bit worried right now going into Game 2. Like, if he doesn't see this sort of stuff often enough to respond properly, that's got to be a concern.
Yeah, I definitely think he can put 2 and 2 together though and be like, whoa, actually that did not work out at all.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's some Protoss players, if you're not as good as Hurricane, you might be like, oh no, I need to take care of this immediately, and they stop building probes, and that's bad. But yeah, just like having 2 Adepts shoot at a bunker and never killing it and never mining from it, it's awesome that you have a 7-8 worker lead, but you're being severely outmined right now by a Terran that's already mining off 2 mineral lines. I
mean, I think it really comes to show when you go for the 3cc build, and then you still kill him with the push afterwards, right? Yeah, wasn't a pretty first game. As here we go with Clem, factory building, second gas taken, and we'll see what comes of that, of course. A lot of it can depend on what's scouted. That's a fast second gateway before any tech.
Yeah, and that is not something we see very often at all.
No.
That's odd. Unless he wants to open up 3-gate with maybe a prism to reinforce.
Yeah, and just go like a little bit like gateway aggression.
Yeah. A little bit of the style of Mana and DNS. I always related to those two in the European scene. Yeah, they always attack when I feel like you shouldn't be attacking, and they get so much damage. And I'm like, if I do this, I fly my prism into a mine and it's all over. Okay, this is Twilight after 2 gates.
Maybe something Adept-based? Maybe like a bit funky like Glaives or so. I'm not too sure, because the second gateway is just not something you see. I mean, Twilight Council all day, every day, build some Stalkers, get Blink, and maybe that's what this is, a Stalker already starting up, but...
Yeah, if you guys don't watch StarCraft all the time, you wonder why we're like talking so much about the second gate. It's just a lot more common to go 1 gate into your tech building, and then you can always add 2 more gateways, and that's just in general a slightly smoother way to make your army a bit stronger and get quicker access to those upgrades, right? Like, that second gate, so far, it just hasn't really done much.
It's gonna give him, what, like a later Blink, but like 1, maybe 2 more Stalkers. So is it really worth delaying the upgrade, which makes the Stalkers that much better, for a couple more units?
I must say, a lot of these guys, though, they are very consistent. Like, he might actually stay on 2 gates for a while, but then he's building units out of the 2 gates, like, all the time on the dot. While a lot of other Protoss, we're just like, as many probes as possible, we'll warp in a couple of safety Stalkers, but after that, the gates are just chilling, because 5 Stalkers is all I need right now to deal with a drop. Maybe he just wants to constantly produce from these 2 gates, and then we'll see where he takes it.
Clem's absolutely afraid though, right? Viking, Siege Tank, it's a lot of kind of defense here. There's no medevac, there's no intention of dropping anything across the map. Bunker came up right away when he saw the second gate as well. So he's just going to play this safe as Hurricane takes the 3rd Nexus.
Yep, 4 minutes 3rd Nexus. I mean, obviously this is something we're somewhat common with, but it's still always very quick when you see it like this. And there is the Robo as well, so he's indeed just doing everything of 2 gates and will probably be producing units non-stop of these 2 gateways. It's an interesting way to get to a very familiar place in this matchup. We'll see how it plays out.
And it can also just be that little sort of throw off the Terran player, right? He's expecting to have to defend, right? It doesn't mean there's any Widow Mine drop across the map. You don't get the second scout you usually look for with that Widow Mine drop. You're sat at home, doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if he's throwing us off and we have full vision, then he's definitely throwing Clem off right now, because indeed Clem was definitely worried about all the things you mentioned. He's getting 4 more gates at this point. No 4 chat, by the way. Obviously, we expect Charge to be the follow-up here, right?
Yeah, Stalkers, Zealots, and just a lot of units coming across. I mean, obviously 6 gates. He's on then 3 gases, so it's kind of what you expect if you're going to play like Stalker Charge eventually. Just we're already there. It is the more aggressive version with no upgrades.
Now he's getting a War Prism as well. Just playing Stalkers. How many gases? 3 gases.
Charge.
Yep. Can we please get like maybe one more safety pylon near those 6 gateways, like on the left on the left bottom side of these 6 gates?
It's such a droppable position as well. It's right on the edge of the base.
That's where the drop arrives. That's where they often unload their units. Please, Hurricane, not like this.
Yeah, you can already see it coming. Is Clem in the end here again? He's not sure what's going on, so he went 2nd and 3rd racks instead of the 3rd CC this time off the 1-1-1. So just a little bit of a faster stim and combat shield to take the 3rd base later on. And I think that's generally a good way to approach the kind of the heavier gateway unit count, because you just have the units to fight back.
I love everything that Hurricane has been doing so far, because it's just working out, right? At this point, I feel like he's in a good position. He's 10 workers ahead. He's mining up 3 bases already. I don't think he needs to get too carried away here, but maybe he can catch this army off guard. But you got to be a little bit careful, especially before charge is done. He doesn't have charge yet, but then again, stim is nowhere near done either.
Yeah, Clem has nothing to really fight with here, right? I mean, tanks aren't going to be sieged. The bio is not good without stim, so Clem has to get back, and he might want to think about rebuilding bunkers, as the Viking will go and get a probe or 2 perhaps at most. But he might just be in so much trouble, he's going to pull the tanks even further back. They weren't even sieged up still. Widow Mine's on the ramp, but there's going to be so many more units coming out of Hurricane. Yeah,
Hurricane has to be a little bit careful though. He can drop a force field on the ramp, that'd be sick. Yeah. Look at the amount of economic damage that Hurricane can do here. 6 SCVs going down already, and he's settling for the Orbiter. I think he really wants it. Look at the SCVs that trapped, and the tanks are dealing so much damage on the SCVs as well.
Oh, the friendly fire, it's absolutely horrible to watch, as the Orbital will just about maybe survive, but even then the SCVs are still stuck in a corner. He's going to try and drop on the other side of this force field as Stim is finishing up. You've got +1 as well, but man, Hurricane, he's already done so much economic damage, he can just back away now and come back later.
He should definitely back away, and I love that call by Hurricane. He's throwing up the double forge and the Templar Archives, and he's producing a power unit in the name of the Immortal right now. I love all of this, because this was so good. It's a shame for him he didn't get the Orbital, but he still put himself in a very good position. But this is where it gets a bit dicey, right? Because you're looking at 0-0 gateway units, and Terran already has 1-0 and Stim. Don't overcommit right now, because you can actually take horrible fights very quickly.
So let's go charging in again. It's like you say, it's like don't go too overboard. As he blinks in for the tanks, the Zealots are getting choked up on the minerals, right? This is exactly not what you want to have happen, but does he just have too much anyways? He really might. As he blinks in, the next tank goes down. So now it is just Marines. But they do have a +1 upgrade, and you know, the Zealots are still not trading well. It's just, he's so far ahead anyways.
It is working out, but I still find it a bit risky and unnecessary. Absolutely. Now he's going to end up losing 8 workers as well. The 3rd, he's going to end up losing a couple of probes in the main base. Hurricane, are you watching? And the answer is yes. Can we take a look at the natural real quick? Yeah, it was unnecessary, right? I know he did good damage again, but did he really have to do it?
Absolutely not, and it is scary. I know he got double forge, but he's not putting them to use just yet. So now Clem's working his way towards 1-1. And the army supplies are favoring Hurricane. He's got a lot to warp in from, but it is an ineffective army to fight with, especially if you don't have that critical mass of Zealots to overwhelm.
Yep, no shield batteries here either. And I think a couple of sentries are left. I think the Immortal is very nice though, because like Immortals don't care that much about upgrades, right? Yeah. Obviously it's very useful, but they're going to be good against Marauders regardless. Guardian Shield is always very useful here as well. So I think Hurricane should be fine, but his army is really not that great.
Yeah, actually gets rid of one of the Widow Mines before they fire as well, which is nice, and is going to push this back, and Clem types out the GG. Caught very off guard there. I think that was Hurricane from the start today. I'm going to throw you off a little bit, make this my own rodeo, and take it home.
It's funny, right, how much dictating the pace of a game can matter. Yeah. In the first game, it really feels like the bunker is what started everything that was good for Clem. This game, Clem scouts, and he's like, 2-gate opening? Like, what does it even mean? And we're looking at each other like, okay, just slightly later Twilight, producing units non-stop. And then he actually got up to 3 bases so quickly. And Clem's opening was just not good against what Hurricane was doing, because he just didn't really get what Hurricane was doing in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, because what Hurricane does is, it's like what he ends up doing is almost all in, right? No upgrades, so many kind of gate units. It's very aggressive. You've got to get something done. And so, as Clem to then play safe too early, it puts you behind when he surges ahead in economy and gets that surge of units going. So it's that kind of odd thing where you want to be safe, just not when Clem was being safe.
And I got to give kudos to Hurricane as well for moving out with the Prism once he did, because I'd be like, you know, you technically don't really have to be here, but I was like, maybe you can catch him off guard, and like I didn't even finish the sentence, and it's like, bam, force field, shaves of a couple of Marines, and Clem was also like, what is his army doing over here? This doesn't make any sense at all. So really well done by Hurricane, good game.
Yeah, Clem had absolutely no idea that army was there at all. He couldn't have been caught more off guard. Has now got to reset and go into a Game 3 on Eternal Empire. So out of all the maps, this is always going to be the one, I think, where you get to 3 bases quite easily. It is a little harder to sometimes make that heavier gateway style work. If there's a map to play a Colossi opener on, it's probably this one.
You know what I've noticed as well between the Korean protoses and the European ones? Like, I often feel like when we have like Stalkers and Zealots, we're ahead economically, we're gonna sit back and we're gonna just take a fight on our side of the map. They put their armies in positions where I'm like, what on earth? Why are you there? We saw that game yesterday on Triton and the Hero Marine against either Zaun or Patience. Suddenly there's like a Zealot Stalker army in between 3 bases, and I'm like, you should never be there, but because he should never be there, he got such a fantastic engagement, such a good trade. I mean, the Korean protosses are adventurous, but they're clearly doing it with a good thought behind it because it keeps working out.
It absolutely works out time and time again, as we start off in the bottom left with our Korean Protoss player, Hurricane.
Both of them had a very convincing game so far in this series. Let's see who moves on to the qualification match of bracket number 3. On the right top side, representing Team Liquid, it is Clem.
Very excited just to see where Clem takes the build order to this time, because obviously last game was a bit of a response. So again, it kind of comes down to what you scout, and that really is true for a lot of Terran openers. You see a Stalker and you're building a Viking and a Cyclone, right? So intrigued to see what Clem feels like he can do. There's been a couple fun builds on Eternal Empire, like the Proxy Fusion going to like a battle cruiser that Q popularized for a while. So there's some possibility for crazy here.
Yeah, I've seen Clem do that actually. I think in one of your tournaments he did it against Gong Fu Banda on Nightshade. I looked at it, I was like, this looks so good. He's got a battle cruiser in the main and a big Marine Cyclone tank push at the third, and we're like 6 minutes into the game. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I was like, I would have no idea how to deal with this. I'd have 5 Stalkers at this point. You know?
Yeah, it was one of those fun builds that popped up for a while. We haven't seen for a little bit, but then you're like, oh, the Terran's just not overusing it before the tournament, right? Pop it out every now and then.
This is a very big map though. I was going to ask you as well, like, how do you like PvT on Eternal Empire?
I think it's alright because while it's a big map, it's also got good push potential for Terran, and you can sort of set up good tank spots. The Liberators later in the game especially have a lot of ramps to work with, and they have allies to cover.
Yep. Like, on one hand, this is like, ideally, like, I love this as a Protoss player because you have a lot of time, so you can shave off a lot of units. If you get pushed by ground, you can put Observers in good spots, and then Blink Stalkers can really shine. You can get economically ahead in the way we know Protoss can get economically ahead with just Chrono Boost and the quick 3-base openings. But there's also a couple of things that really speak for Terran in this map. So I'm always a little bit surprised when Terran players don't veto it. But on the other hand, I'm like, no, actually, I kind of get why they like it as well.
Clem actually started to bunker here, saw the pylon, and just cancelled it till he's figured it's not worth it if I can't force the pylon there and the shield battery. Because I think that's what you're kind of looking for a lot of the time, right? So he's just like, yeah, you see it early. It's not worth trying to get this up. So cancels it right away, doesn't worry too much. And obviously from Hurricane, just the one gateway this time into the Twilight, which Clem does get into scout with the Reaper.
Yeah, so that's pretty big, right? Because, I mean, last game he was obviously quite confused, didn't really know what was going on. This time he knows immediately he's playing against the Twilight. So Clem can just kind of do whatever the hell he wants. Now, what is this all about? Don't tell me he's going to open up a Dark Shrine or something.
Yeah, I mean, the probe is hanging there.
There we go. Cheeky, cheeky.
So that's not what Clem's really thinking about when you see that Twilight. Nope. I mean, obviously it's a possibility, but the first thing you think of is Blink, right? You think Stalkers, Blink, cool. I can Widowmine drop into this, etc.
Especially because this is such a good map for the Blink Stalker opening, and that's way more common than the quick Dark Shrine opening in this matchup. Like, Dark Shrines are really good, and there's a lot of people like, how can they not like a Dark Shrine opening? It's like, no, we like Dark Shrine openings, but they can be a little hit or miss, right? Because right now, Hurricane, he doesn't know what Clem is doing. And what if Clem is just chilling on 2 bases with a Raven? Then the opening doesn't really pay off. That doesn't mean it's the end of the world, because it's not that expensive. But your real fighting army is just going to be a little less strong. I think you're pointing out that he can see that the Twilight Council is not researching anything at this point. I think those are things hard to pick up. This is a massive scout though, oh my goodness.
He sees the Dark Shrine, if he realizes that and figures out what's going on, starts an engineering base. So yeah, I think absolutely he's got this figured out. And of course you can just keep the energy for the orbitals as well a little bit too, right? So
now this is massive. Obviously Clem cannot necessarily do something about all the information he gained immediately. It's not like he can run to the other side of the map and win because he knows he's playing against DTs, but at least he won't be caught off guard. And we all know those moments where Terran players drop like 2 mules, and that's when the 2 DTs show up and you're like, is this a game over? Well, that should never be the case. We can see the turrets going up. You gotta love this if you're Clem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when you're scouting Hellion, goes in and kills like 3 probes, you're like,
that's the best Hellion ever. Not only did it see the Dark Shrine, it actually did economic damage as well. And obviously a single Hellion is not even much of a commitment.
Bunch of extra gates, charge, and a robo. Feels like there's a very aggressive Zealot Archon attack coming in after this DT attempt. So that's where we're kind of headed. Hurricane sent a probe out toward the third base. He's patrolling an Adept here to try and stop Skying, but it really feels like he's committing to something way before this is ever going to be up in mind.
Like economically, at this point, Clem is already in a fantastic position because there's only a 3-worker advantage right now for Hurricane, but that's 2 base Protoss against 2 base Terran. Terran obviously with the mules means that right now Clem is mining a lot more minerals than Hurricane is. I really don't like this for Hurricane, but a lot of these guys are so good at making magic happen. Like, I look at this, I'm like, this has disaster written all over it for the Hurricane. But then again, this is a Korean Protoss, and they can really make magic appear where it shouldn't appear in the first place.
Kind of like the Liberator, just something that can go across the map without sending too much across to deal some damage. Obviously, he's gone 3rd CC again, so he feels very safe to sit back, but that does mean he's missing production, which maybe gives Hurricane the chance to break through here with this army that's now setting up.
Do we have bunkers?
I don't think so. We've got 1. I'm not convinced about 1, though.
No. But I really like the Cyclone in the main and the Viking to put some pressure on the War Prism, right? Because, oh, there's a Widowmine as well on the top side of the main base. Can we take a look at the main base real quick? Because if that War Prism goes down, that would be a disaster. The Viking and Cyclone are close.
Yeah, it's going to take a big hit, and the units just on there. Maybe they already pulled to the natural, because that's where the Zealots are. They break the bunker now. SCV's going down as well, but all the Zealots are gone. And okay, Zealots in the main base, obviously, but that's it, right? The Prism's dead, so Clem cleans up the natural, then he cleans up the main, and he's on 3 CC.
Yep, he's losing a lot of SCVs, and this looks bad, and Hurricane is still going to get a little more, so far it's actually going slightly better for Hurricane than I expected, but this is the kind of stuff you hope to win the game with, and the game is absolutely not going to end here, but hey, getting 23 SCVs, it's a little more than I thought he was going to get, Waddy.
Yeah, 23 SCVs is really, really good. And you can see now he's like, well, this is damage I can transition off of. I don't need to try warp in one more round of Zealots to all in.
That's cool, actually. He just got the missile turret as well, so you can wipe in the DT. Oh, wait, he canceled the Dark Shrine. And okay, that's why we built the Templar Archives.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, it's interesting because there's the 3rd base so late from Hurricane, right? Yeah. Whereas Clem can triple mule, he can build 3 SCVs at a time. So while Clem right now, 16 workers down, sounds horrible, it's going to catch back up pretty quickly.
Even right now, I think they're actually quite close. Can we take a look at the income graphic real quick? And you can see, like, as soon as like all the SCVs are mining and the mules have been landing, like Hurricane has way more workers, but Clem is actually out-mining him a little bit. You know what? I think this is the worst part for Hurricane right now. Like, obviously, he did a lot of damage, and it's good, and this is very playable. He's even going to get Quick Storm, and I think all of that stuff is awesome. I think it's going to be very hard for him to transition into a defensive game, right? Because he doesn't have Blink, he doesn't really have anything that's great against, like, you know, Medivacs or pushing Medivacs into a certain direction, putting the pressure on them. But as long as he keeps attacking, he doesn't really have to worry about defending, right? So maybe that's the game plan here?
Yeah, I think so, because defending with like the first 2 storms is so scary, because if you miss Storm 1, even if Storm 2 is decent, you're just going to get overrun by the bio afterwards, right? Yeah, especially when you have no upgrades. So that's the dangerous part here, I think, for Hurricane right now.
Yep, it's just so hard to catch these units. Even on Liberator can become very annoying. We do have a couple of Stalkers here, so far, so this is cool by Clem, well done.
It's a really nice little position, right? You just gotta get some high ground. When the Liberator fights, you can see it, so you can fight back, but that's 2 Stalkers dead, and Hurricane didn't realize it.
And I love that Clem is now going to unsiege as well. This is like the difference between good Terrans and great Terrans. Great Terrans, they get so much value out of like low HP units on the other side of the map. There's Storm though, oh my goodness.
Yeah, Clem realized it pretty quick. He saw the Temple and you immediately had to back away to give him time to split. Widow Mines might get high Temple if he's not careful.
This is so bizarre, by the way. Like, why is this tiny Protoss army here with like 3 or 4 Storms?
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets out of here with everything, it's awesome, but I really don't know if he can. Clem throws down a scan and Clem is like, no, these units, I don't want them to go home. Obviously, he can turn around and storm, but this is expensive, body. Multiple High Templars going down.
Yeah, 2 High Templar for what, like a handful of Marines? Even the Marauders escaped that one, as he's going to turn this Liberator back around again.
And there is a double drop, and I'm not sure if Hurricane saw it. The answer is yes. Hurricane was ready, lands a Storm again. I gotta say, so far, Hurricane is doing pretty good for a man without Blink.
Yeah, and Blink is halfway done, so it's getting better eventually. As Clem takes his own 3rd CC into position, though, and still has 1-1, but he hasn't moved into 2-2, so I wonder how much that 3rd CC is coming into use, and if he maybe just wants to try and do something if the first ghosts come out now.
So Hurricane still has that proxy gate on the top side of the map. Like, normally it would be like, I don't think he should be aggressive here, but he does have a way to warp in reinforcements very, very quickly. He wants to get as much value out of these quick storms as possible. Those storms do a lot of damage to the Marines, but the thing is, damage is good, but it's more important to get kills, because the Medivacs are just going to heal up these Marines anyway.
Hurricane going to try for a very fast fourth base then. I mean, it is 10 minutes in the game, right? So it's that stage where your main starting mine out. So off 67 workers, you need somewhere to send your extra probes to. As Clem will think about a fourth command center as well. So he is pretty serious. In which case, I just feel get the armory start 2-2 as well, because you don't want to fall too far behind on upgrades for no reason. And there is 2-2 starting.
This is a pretty wild game. I really love it. It's important for Clem, of course, to find the proxy gate on the top side of the map. I think early on he's like, oh, he just warped in all those units of a War Prism, and then the War Prism went into the main base as well. But if Clem would ever move out and that gate and that pylon is still there, it's so easy for Hurricane to warp in 7 or 8 Zealots. Yeah. And Clem recovered pretty nicely from the economic damage he took. But if he once again ends up losing 20 SCVs, then I think it's going to be a different ballgame. Hurricane is so aggressive, but I feel like he doesn't really have to. I think it's fake aggression though. He doesn't really want to commit, but he has to be so careful that he doesn't overcommit here for no reason at all.
Ghosts are out and hitting really good EMPs considering there's no enhanced shockwaves, even sniping down the trailing High Templar, so guaranteeing kills, not just denial of energy. Really nice couple of moments there from Clem. I just feel like Clem's playing very well and very solidly, and while Hurricane's had some good moments, some good defense, I still don't see him taking a fight right now that's going to beat Clem up.
Nope, but I think if he has like 2 or 3 Colossi and the 2-2 upgrades kick in, Thermalance finishes up, then I think it's totally alright. So I understood what Hurricane was doing there, right? Like it was kind of fake aggression. He's like, I'm in your face, I'm ready to fight. But then he didn't really want to commit because all he is like, he's like, please stay on your side of the map. Yeah. Did warp in a couple of Zealots though, and this is why that gate is so nice for Hurricane. And it's really important for Clem to take care of this because Clem wants to look at his army. Clem wants to micro this army, but at the same time he has to deal with Zealots at home.
Oh, those High Templar didn't have Storm, so Clem actually runs past into the fourth base. Now he is being chased by the Protoss army, so he's got to think about what he does here. But the Archon goes down pretty quick again. This is still 1-1 against 1-1. And we do see, I mean, the Storms just can't get in range. The Widow Mines from behind hit the High Templar. There's one Storm left. The Colossi have to try and recall. One goes down, and that means the fourth base is dead, and so many probes alongside it.
That was such an awkward fight, and it really felt that if Hurricane was in a slightly better position, he would have been able to deal with this. Like, even right now, you look at that, you're like 2 or 3 hits from the Colossi, and those Marines are gone. But Clem did a really good job. Just great army movement by Clem, and very decisive, right? He didn't second guess himself. He went for it. He went up that ramp and really called Hurricane out of position here.
Which is so nice to do when it's such a weird fight as well, because it's not one you see every day. So then to say, oh, this is how I fight this now, really won him the fight there. And now Clem backs away, a fourth base up against no fourth of his opponent. The biggest issue is that gate on the top side, because if you get some Zealots in your third when you're still trying to defend the fourth, that's his biggest problem, I think, still.
Do you think that Hurricane could maybe attack with like 3 or 4 Colossi? Because the Viking count obviously is non-existent at this point.
And there's no enhanced shockwaves, right?
Nope.
So the one thing where first Colossi come out, if you have enhanced shockwaves, at least you're EMPing so much at once with your few ghosts, but that's not there yet. So yeah, maybe that's his timing in this, to do something and get back into it a little bit.
Yeah. Instead, Hurricane is going to go up to 4 bases, which obviously isn't the worst call, because I'm not sure if a Colossus War Prism attack really would have been able to get the job done here. Clem finally finds that gate and the pylon. He's going to make sure that he deals with that, I think. Obviously, it's so nice at the 4th base to just have a planetary, so you don't even need to look at Zealots anymore.
Yeah, it's nice, you know, you have to pull a couple SCVs now and then. Warp Prism might have been spotted by Clem. Yeah, it's a very hopeful stim after it, but Viking is there, so that's going to deflect as he is just going to get the pylon as well. So this is all potential aggression on this top side, shut down. And this army's moving out over here. Clem is actually getting very quick to sim and just say, yeah, let's take it.
Medevacs are a bit out of position there, a little ahead of the party. But Clem had so many of them that losing one Medevac is not going to be too bad for him. I do like the way that Hurricane is spacing out units, and he's just using Storm almost as a, no, you cannot pass here, and then drops the Storm, and he's just buying time for himself. He's getting +3 now as well, so that's still kind of cool. Hurricane is trying to economically recover, but right now his economy is nowhere near as good as the one of Clem, and Clem once again connects with a couple of these High Templars with good EMPs.
So it's into that 3rd base, but these Vikings were picking away at Colossi when we left, and you can see they're pretty low, you know, another EMP, a couple more Viking shots, and this is going to start getting dangerous. The Colossi are ahead of the rest, and that's going to be one going down for free at the start. And those are things you just can't do against someone as good as Clem. What is this? Where the Colossi come back?
They're way out of position. One High Templar tried to flank, but didn't really get much done. The Colossi having the most awkward fight of all time. They're blocking each other. Oh my goodness. Like, this was never going to be good, but this actually turned out quite bad. I do love the Zealot counterattack once again. No idea where they came from. And finally, Hurricane has his units in the right position. And for as bad as that looked, Barty, he actually handled that really well.
And now he's blinking in after it to pick up some kills also. So Clem kind of running away, having to back off here. And Yeah, you're right. Like, for how stupid the fight looked for Hurricane, it shouldn't have gone this well for him in the end. He shouldn't be the one pushing Clem back and chasing across the map aggressively.
But it really helps so much, right, that he has Zealot presence once again on the other side of the map, because as a Terran player, like, Terran armies are good, but you need to be paying attention, because you never know where that storm is coming from. So the moment you have to micro stuff at home against Pro Zealots running around everywhere, that's when you're not going to get that much value anymore out of your units. And look at Hurricane, he's so aggressive. Like, I'm amazed by this, because this time there is no warp prism. Maybe he can recall. This is risky though. He's really relying on these High Templars. Oh, EMP! Yeah,
he's looking for the EMP and he just lands it on the army. Instead, he's going to go in. The Viking count is a bit better than before. First Storm is dodged pretty well. First Colossi down as well. There goes the second, so now it's just the Storms, which is great to stop this Terran army chasing you, but it is just Storms and Stalkers. He could storm the best CVs.
Yep.
Could be crazy. Instead, he's going to keep running, but if he keeps running, he's going to lose these units. Like, this is enough bio to chase. And that was a High Templar.
He's got one more Storm and he will land the Storm, but that also means that all the High Templars and Colossi went down here. Like, I loved it in the beginning, but maybe something's like recall out. Like, use that get out of jail free card that Protoss has. Because he puts himself in awkward spots and you're like, okay, you shouldn't be here, but it's kind of cool because you can get some damage done. But it's like, hey, Hurricane, it's time to quit, my friend. Like, get out of there.
Yeah, he absolutely went a bit too far. Now he's blocked his own 4th base with the pylon on 5th base. And yeah, that money he's banking up is kind of crazy as well.
If he would be spending all those minerals that he has in the bank and all that gas, well, gas not that much, 600-700, but he had like 2k minerals, Hurricane is actually kind of ahead, and that's bizarre.
Yeah, he's actually already on a bit of a supply lead, but of course Clem is teching up a bit more right now. He's going more towards Liberators, etc. in the front. Oh, Disruptor shots, obviously scary. Stalker's blinking in, trying to take advantage of the fact the bio is being pushed back by the Purification Novas.
I love how both of them kind of had a cheap and easy win, right? Like Clem in game 1 obviously played well, but Hurricane played just as well in game 2. And we didn't see that much. Now I feel like they're both really testing each other and we can get a good vision on or a good view on who's the actual better player. And it felt Hurricane was in trouble a couple of times, but he's salvaging these weird situations really well.
Yeah, he really is, and honestly, his army looks better than it's ever been, right? Disruptors and Colossi and Storm, and Clem is kind of taking a fight. I don't think he can. The Storms cover him on the top side, the Libs show up. If there's one thing there isn't here, it's really decent anti-air, but he just backs away from the Liberators.
There are so few units left for Clem, and he's still pushing, which I think is actually kind of crazy. He's going to pick off one of these Archons, but at this point I kind of felt that it was Clem's time to go. How are there still Zealots running into the 3rd base? Where are they coming from?
Is he just like sending them all the way around the map?
Did he rip out a gate? No, right? Wow, GG gets called just like that. Hurricane will actually be the one to move on into the qualification match. Didn't have a good start to this game, but he turned it around, and that's very impressive.
I feel like the last 5 minutes were just insane from Hurricane. Just felt like every single fight he takes, it's like borderline not going to work out, and then it just about does, it just does. And then suddenly at the end, he has everything you want in a Protoss army. Colossi, Disruptors, High Templars for Storm. It had everything, and a Zealot counterattack into the 3rd, and that's the absolute most dismal position for a Terran to be in, when Clem just never got up into a great Ghost count, never got up into like a super high Liberator count. He was in so much trouble.
The counterattacks were devastating, but you remember what we said in the beginning of the game, where it's like the Korean Protosses, they put their armies in positions where we feel like you should never be here, but they somehow make it work. Hurricane did that like 7 times in the final fight, or in the final game rather. He's across the map with like 4 High Templars and 5 Stalkers. We're like, that's it? Like, but yeah, he makes it work. Awesome. Really, really good performance by him.
Perhaps another great run coming up from Hurricane. He moves into the qualifying match. More from him after the break.